Mike, how you doing? Thanks for joining the show.
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, guys.
So real quick, Mike, just curious, was there a honeymoon phase with your new gig? How long did it last, or did you just get your hands dirty immediately?
I think we're still in it, right?
There you go.
There you go. Nice vacation.
There you go.
No, I mean, I think it was an interesting time to, take the lead in this position, just rolling right into the draft, free agency, obviously trade season, summer league, where you do all this stuff in our chair, in our position. And so I just kind of hit the ground running. But the good news is we've had a group that's in place, and we felt ready and had things kind of teed up to a certain degree. And now it's a little bit quieter, and kind of sitting back and taking a broader view of things and what we need to do, and just like in the office and collectively and things like that. But it was a pretty intense few weeks when I first got the job.
So we know what we do when we get the schedule. We just got it in our hand. When you get the schedule, what's the first thing that you look at?
All right, so I've been a player for 15 years and on this side for a few. I immediately look at the holidays, and I say, where are we at Christmas and Thanksgiving and Easter and all that stuff, because it impacts family. And I know a lot of our players and coaches do too. But realistically, too, you look at, when you're on the road a lot, when you're at home a lot. And this schedule is pretty interesting in the sense of a lot of road-heavy games to start, a huge patch in December and January. We're at home. And then finish the season with a pretty strong stretch of road games. And so it doesn't have a great amount of balance, some heavy pockets of one or the other. But that's just the way it goes. That's the hand you're dealt, and gives us an opportunity, I think, this season to kind of get over our road woes from last season right away and hit the ground running.
Mike, I don't know if you remember, Steiny and I last season were out at the practice facility. You were kind enough to sit down with us, and I looked you in the face and asked you, had you thought about maybe, being a GM, and coaching even came up. And now you are the GM of the team that drafted you. You've been here 5 years under the tutelage of Bob Myers, who at one point represented you as a player. I mean, just talk to us about, has that even just subsided? Like, man, I'm doing this for the team that drafted me.
Yeah, it's really interesting, the journey, so to speak, having been drafted by this organization, which, as I think I mentioned before, it was on the other side of the bay. It was a different zip code. A lot has changed. Certainly the fan base has remained. We've got a few people left around, Raymond Ritter and Eric Housen and Nam and Brian. But overall, it just feels like a different franchise. So other than Warriors, it feels different. And, but things tend to come back full circle. And when I came back out here a few years ago to, work for a front office and work for Bob, I just was excited to work for a great organization and, learn more about this side of things and scout and help build a team and do all that and learn. And here we are a few years later, and now I've been asked to kind of lead basketball and basketball operations. So it's a little surreal, but I'm excited about it. I think we've got a great group, and I certainly feel more prepared today than I did a few years ago when I got done playing.
Talking to Mike Dunleavy Jr., general manager for the Golden State Warriors. Mike, as we look at this schedule, the return of Kevin Durant, you get right into it. It's been a couple years. Do you think it'll be as electric as it would have been right after KD's first time in the building with the fans? What are you expecting on that opening night?
Yeah, I think of the combo of him returning and us open up the season against a formidable opponent should make the building pretty electric. I think we got to figure out a way to appropriately honor Kevin. He hasn't actually played in Chase Center since departing, so I know it's been a while, but anytime great players like that who've given so much to the franchise come back, you got to figure out a way to honor him. We'll do that appropriately, but at the same time, it's opening night, it's a good team, and we got to get a win.
No doubt. Mike, you mentioned when you took over it was hectic and you made a big move, moving Jordan Poole for CP3. I, like a lot of people in Dub Nation, I like what Jordan Poole brought to the table. But, I'm just trying to keep it real here, Mike. If that punch didn't happen to you all last year, do you think Jordan Poole would still be in a Warrior uniform right now?
Great question. Really hard to say. To go back in the scenario and kind of put the toothpaste back in the tube and evaluate is tough. And so, how much that had to do with us making the move is hard to really explain. But I think from a basketball standpoint and a financial standpoint, we did a deal that makes sense. So, who's to say? Who's to say what impact that had on the season last year and then our thought process this summer? So I'm sure it factored in. How much I can't really honestly give you. But overall, I think our basketball team is in a better place right now than it was a year ago, which, by the way, happened to be before that incident happened. So we feel good with where we're at. Hate seeing Jordan go. Gave so much to this franchise. Wouldn't have a banner without him. But overall, we feel like trying to win a championship next year with Chris Paul in the mix greatly improves our chances, and we're excited.
Talking to Mike Dunleavy Jr., GM for the Warriors, with us on Steiny and Guru. Mike, as you talk about bringing in CP3, Steph has been very vocal during this offseason. Same with Draymond. Does it feel, even Klay Thompson, does it feel like these guys are as focused as other championship years? Does it feel the same as maybe going into 2022 versus going into 2023 when they had just won a championship?
Yeah, I don't want to jinx it, but it certainly does have that vibe. These guys, flying back after the game in LA where we were eliminated, there was just a sense of, let's put this season behind us, and guys are ready to go. And that was only in May. And so I know the work these guys are putting in right now, the commitment. There's been great communication. I think we've improved our roster. So, and we've had a longer off season. When you have a short off season after a championship, and we started early last year because we had to go to Japan, it just never got off on the right foot. And I think we've had some more time this year to get our things in order. And we'll start October 2nd, and I know these guys will be ready to go.
Mike, we saw Draymond, and rightfully so, get his contract for $400, and we know he's the heart and soul of your team. But Steve Kerr, his contract situation is coming up. Has there been much talk or any talk to where, Warrior fans can expect an announcement soon?
Well, we're working on it. It's quite obvious, hopefully, to everybody that we want to have Steve back. We want him, just like our great players who won championships. We want to, extend their window. Same with Steve. We feel like there's no better coach to coach those guys, and those guys are going to be here. So we're working on it. I don't know that I need to say or can say anymore other than, we'd love to have Steve back, and I think I'm optimistic we can make that happen.
Talking to Mike Dunleavy Jr., GM for the Warriors. Mike, if you could just pull back the curtain a little bit, when we see reports of the Warriors, everybody's always worried about that last roster spot. When we see the Warriors working out guys like JTA and a couple different players like that, how does that whole situation work? And when you have those workouts, how soon after do you make a decision, hey, we're going to bring this guy back or not? How does that whole process work?
Yeah, so right now with the position we're in with 13 guaranteed spots and having a couple more that we can do during the season, and then obviously training camp, we're allowed to invite 21 players, and we have a couple two-ways. So we're looking at a lot of end-of-the-roster stuff, and I think from our standpoint, we're in a good spot in the sense that we have 13 players we really like. We don't feel like there's any glaring positional or talent needs. So therefore, we can bring in a bunch of different players, young, old, experienced, less experienced, long-term play, short-term, and evaluate. Certainly, we've got to see these guys play over the years, whether it's college or G League. But now we're getting to see them in our own gym, compete against our guys. And it just gives us another data set to look at and say, hey, is this a guy we want to maybe bring into our camp or make a part of our program? And, we take our time with it. We talk through it. And I think sometime come December, we'll have more clarity and start kind of locking guys up into training camp roster spots. And, that's sort of the process and how we go about it. But to be in this situation right now in August where we have a really good roster, but also some room to add is a good one.
Mike, we're seeing Klay and Kuminga put in work, and last year Klay, wasn't a lot of basketball activities in the offseason, so I'm excited at what he's going to bring, and Jonathan making a jump. But when the season was over after you guys lost to the Lakers, Draymond talked about connection, with the younger guys, and I'm just asking you, how much emphasis has been put on that for like the veterans and the youngsters to kind of, bridge that gap, if any, to where you guys can be, all on the same page and maybe we see a better Warrior team on the road?
Yeah, I mean, no question about it. Connection's been a big word for us around our facility over the last few months in this offseason. It's something that we're trying to address both internally and externally. I think adding a guy like Chris Paul can help with that, his ability to lead and communicate. And then I think everybody just taking a step back, taking a deep breath and looking at it and saying, okay, last year didn't work, especially on the road. What can we do better? I think everybody's approach is going to be better. And it's really not about young and old. It's about the whole team and the whole organization. I want the front office to be better connected with the coaching staff. I want the coaching staff to be better connected with the players, performance better connected with, the business, whoever it is. I think we all need to be better connected, and that'll translate to the guys in the court doing that, and then it ultimately translates to winning. So that's sort of the plan and the hope, and I think we're making headway.
Talking to Mike Dunleavy Jr., GM for the Warriors. Mike, Steph Curry this summer has been ridiculous. The hole-in-one, winning the golf tournament. He drops his doc. How much have you been either keeping up with Steph, speaking with Steph, and what are your thoughts on this? We're calling it the Summer of Steph. What are your thoughts on Steph's summer?
Well, he's just unbelievable. Just to be on the golf front, to be so good at two sports is in some ways unfair, but it's been fun to watch. And the best part of it all is the guy can balance things out so well where he's getting the appropriate amount of work in the gym. I mean, he's been in our gym playing with our guys. For a guy that's 35-year-old, as accomplished as he is, in the middle of August, to be playing 2 hours of pickup, it's just incredible. And so he's our leader. As he goes, we go. And I think he's primed to be in position to have another great season. And a lot of that is because of the balance he has in his life with golf, family, and the other interests that he has.
Mike, I've been telling my partner here, you know what? I got to stay off social media. But speaking of which, bounce. Jonathan Kuminga, as I mentioned, scored 60. And we got fans saying he's about to break out. The talent is there. Some saying slow your roll. I'm just curious to see, and I know it was pickup. When you see your guy scoring 60, how does the Warrior GM take that? How do you look at that?
Well, scoring 60 in a game, I don't care if it's a summer league game or a regular season or a playoff game. I mean, that's hard to do. Not many people can do that. So I saw some highlights, didn't watch the whole game, but Jonathan's in a really good place mentally and physically. He's put a lot of work in. He's been around our gym, and he's focused on, his own career, but also helping our group win games. And I think that's a good place to be heading into year 3. He's still super young, but he's had the experience and he's had some ups and downs that I think he's learned from, we've learned from, and I think he's in a good spot right now to have a great season, and I'm excited for him.
Talking to Mike Dunleavy Jr., GM for the Warriors. My guru, my partner here, loves the quote from CP3, "You coaching," and the whole thing went viral. And CP3 then went on to say that he hadn't had those conversations yet with Steve Kerr about starting or coming off the bench. The question is, have they had those conversations yet? Would you be a part of those conversations? What are the expectations for CP3 this season playing with the starters?
Yeah, I think the conversations have been, look, man, we're adding a hell of a player to the mix, and we've got 5 or 6 other really good players. Only 5 players can start. The answer is we don't really know. Like, we got to get to camp. Steve's got to get to camp. Chris, our players, and just see how this all works. The bottom line is that the guy's never played less than 30 minutes in his career. He's going to play a ton, as is Kavan, as is Draymond, as is Steph, and so on and so forth. So I guess people are going to make a big deal out of who's starting and who's not. My main thing is to put together a really good basketball team. I think we've done that, adding Chris Paul, whether he's starting, coming off the bench. As long as he's playing a lot, I think we'll be really good.
Mike, this is kind of a random question, but there's so many parallels, and you tell me what you think. If you look at the Niners, they drafted a relatively unknown quarterback in Trey Lance, and right now, it's not going the best for him, and there's talks maybe he makes the roster. Hopefully he does. Maybe he's not. And you guys kind of had that when you drafted James Wiseman, and I guess I'm asking you, when do you know how much rope to give the player to where, okay, we want to keep him around, or if he's going to be a good fit? Can you kind of speak to what goes into that thought process?
Yeah, sure. It's tough. I've been there myself as a rookie in the NBA and a young player. Everybody kind of runs their own race, and some guys come out of the gates and they're really good and they don't look back. And some guys, it takes some time. And whether you're talking about football or basketball, it's just something that there's no specific recipe for every guy, and it's important for us to always have a pulse of these guys. They're in our gym. They're working with our coaches, working with our team, and you just got at times you got to make a call, as was the case with James, where we just felt like with where our guys were and the success of our team and the amount of time it was probably going to take him to get to the level we needed him to get to, we financially couldn't afford that. And so those things happen. Those are the conversations we're constantly having and evaluating. And so it's been, I think we've learned a lot the last few years in terms of traction at the top of the draft. Hopefully we're not back there anytime soon, but if we are, I think we'll be better.
With Mike Dunleavy Jr., one more question for you, Mike, GM for the Warriors. 15 back-to-backs this season. How do you plan on managing that throughout the season with this older roster?
Yeah, look, I mean, we always have a high amount of back-to-backs based on the national TV schedule and us needing to play on certain days to be on ESPN and TNT. So that's a part of it. We understand it. We don't love it. But, our guys, we heavily rely on our medical staff. We rely on our players to let us know how they're feeling, where they're at. And we look at a lot of the data. And we kind of take it on a game-by-game basis, and we project some stuff. And, look, are these guys going to play 82 games? Probably not, but we want to pace them in a way where we have a really good season, and by the time April, May, June playoffs come around, these guys are in prime form. So that's sort of our thought process and strategy, and a lot goes into it.
Thanks again. That was Mike Dunleavy Jr.
Appreciate
Mike,
it.
have a great